live. This will be probably one of the final episodes that we record here at the Retail Fulfilment Summit. I'd like to welcome Prash and Chloe to the Supply Chain Channel podcast.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, okay. So maybe this is my first episode as of now that I have two of you guys on. So maybe you want to give a quick introduction about who you are, what do you do, and then one of you guys can answer the question, what is OniGroup?
Yeah, sure. Chloe, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can start. So my name's Chloe. Really nice to meet you. I'm a senior solutions consultant at OniGroup. I've actually been working in the travel and logistics space for the last 14 years. So I started off in the UK in more of that kind of SaaS technology space and then moved across to Australia. I was really fortunate to be able to work with carriers across the UK, Europe, North America, Southeast Asia, and then luckily to come to this region and be able to work with the great logistics carriers and retailers over here. So for me, I've always had a really strong interest in this sector, and so there was this really natural link with OniGroup and working with Google that really appealed to me. I'm a bit of a logistics nerd. In my spare time, I like counting underutilized pallets in people's distribution centers.
Okay, it sounds fun. Yeah, there's plenty of that to go around. All right, Prash.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a head of product at OniGroup. Spent a lot of my career in sort of SaaS and sort of product-oriented companies, both from a technology and from a sales side and a product side as well. So kind of got to kind of experience the whole sort of customer life cycle in that sense. But yeah, actually, I mean, I sort of spent a lot of time studying sort of address formats around the world, sitting with delivery drivers, actually delivering parcels, understanding what sort of challenges they go through and trying to bring all of that, try to solve all of that from a technology and product perspective, and obviously using a lot of the Google technology stack to sort of help that.
Yeah, all right. And yeah, Prash, I kind of read through your LinkedIn. So you were an engineer turned consultant and now head of product. How did that kind of happen?
Yeah, I think that kind of helped from just being across the whole customer life cycle. I've done roles from support to sales to implementation, pre-sales. And when you kind of have that sort of experience, you kind of sort of understand let's try and fix the problems at the start, not try to get to a support ticket, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's how do we fix these problems proactively or preemptively? And that sort of kind of inspired me to sort of get into product is, we see all these challenges from an operational sense, but also from a technology perspective. And then it's what can we sort of bring into the world to help solve this for sort of the retail and logistics industry in particular?
Yeah, right, cool. Chloe, so you mentioned I also looked through the LinkedIn and it felt like you were everywhere. And where you were in the UK, you were around Europe, then US, Southeast Asia. Where were you in Southeast Asia?
So just working with companies sort of across the whole region, so not just from a logistics standpoint, but also from a public transport standpoint. So I've got a lot of experience actually working with drivers themselves, looking at the driver safety space, change management, and it's been really exciting to move across and work with OniGroup and still see how I can kind of help in that space and look at sort of the change management perspective from a technology standpoint with OniGroup, which is really interesting.
Yeah. Prash, I know you were answering the question earlier during soundcheck, kind of cut you off. So maybe what's it? Explain to the audience and viewers, listeners, what is OniGroup in, let's say, about 30 seconds? High level, what do you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So OniGroup is a Google technology partner. So we help our customers sort of implement and utilize Google Cloud, Google Maps in sort of the best way, most optimal way possible. But we also sort of provide our own solutions and products built on top of the Google technology stack that are very much focused towards sort of the retail and logistics industries. The best way to sort of think about it is sort of Google give you the building blocks, and then we build the stuff that's actually tailored for those specific use cases to solve the business challenges that those organizations are facing.
All right. Well, nicely put. So, like, I wouldn't be able to get through all the questions because I'm hoping to get two different answers from you guys. So, what sparked your interest in the industry? I want to go with Chloe on this one because you said you're like a bit of a logistics nerd, and so how do you end up becoming one? As in, what was it that drew you into this kind of like industry?
Yeah, it was actually my first job out of university was working on a support desk for a transport management software company.
Most people would look at that like that was a horrible experience. I'm never going back. How does that turn around? Like, yeah, that's amazing.
I think because I was the person taking the phone calls from the ops teams on site, so I got a real kind of understanding about like what are the challenges that they're facing. So a vehicle is off the road, what's the operational impact? And I felt that being the customer support person on the end of that phone call. And then from there, I moved more into an account management role, which meant that I got to spend a lot of time actually on site with the logistics operators and the retailers in the UK. And I just loved doing that. I loved being able to go and do warehouse tours. Even sort of circa 12 years ago, like there was aspects of robotic fulfillment in the UK that I got to see. And yeah, it just really sparked an interest. And then I've just kind of always stayed in that space because I just love it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. So for those with who want a career in logistics, go get your head bashed in by listening to complaint calls and tech support. That's how you drive passion. I'm not I'm joshing a little bit, but at the same point, I'm like that is also true. You actually get in touch with the consumer and then you see from their point of view, and that helps with your point of view moving forward because that's effectively what you're doing now, trying to solve that problem. How about you, Prash? How did you end up in retail logistics fulfillment?
Yeah, sure. I guess I ended up in this world just because of sort of my interest in geography and travel. So just sort of understanding like all of the nuances in different countries from a location intelligence and location landscape. I mean, as a result of this job, I've got to travel sort of all over the world just studying how deliveries are made.
I feel sad for you. You have to do such things for your job. Oh, tough.
Yeah, I mean, like last year I was in Dubai, like delivering parcels. I was like, never thought I'd be sitting in a courier van in Dubai, like delivering parcels, or like in sitting in like warehouses in Southeast Asia, sorting parcels and going, oh, okay, these are some of the challenges. Like you never thought that those are things I do in my career, but I guess, yeah, it just kind of came about just because of my sort of interest in that travel and the different like sort of cultures and nuances in different locations and trying to understand all of that. And so that's how I sort of came to be here.
Yeah, okay. Well, we all will. It's a different part of your journey, right? And you arrive at where you are supposed to be, where you're supposed to be, even if you can't see it now. In hindsight, you're like, yeah, that was how it was. It was plotted out from up high. So we are Retail Fulfillment Summit 2025, and this is the second day. We've had plenty of talks and plenty of sharing. So maybe if you can kind of share, what are some trends that you have seen that you feel like people are talking about? I would share from my point of view, as I know the producers from the show, we have an overarching kind of like idea where we want it to be. But what did you guys kind of get out of it? So Chloe, what was some things that you saw in this summit that you felt like was like insightful?
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's really been like the focus on the customer. So I see like a big drive from the retailers who are about like how do we really improve the customer experience?
Yeah.
We see a lot actually of like statistics around like what happens if people have a bad delivery experience and the likelihood of them making a repeat purchase. So I think there was a stat from Tech Insights that said that 84% of consumers are unlikely to make a repeat purchase if they have a bad delivery experience. And I think that's really kind of resonating now. And so people are really focused on how do we ensure that we're getting this delivery right first time, and how are we really improving the experience for the consumers receiving their deliveries. And I think that's kind of where it's interesting to see like how people kind of see that through like different lenses. So in the retail area, there's obviously a lot of talk about personalization, and I think that's quite an interesting tie-in between how do you tie in the delivery experience and personalization and people's delivery requirements,
Yeah, yeah.
which I think has been really interesting.
So Prash, maybe I'll throw that like to you. So customer expectations or experience is actually a very big part of what we wanted the event to be. So what does OniGroup do for that? As in what would be, how do you guys approach the customer and how their experience would be like?
Yeah, I guess the best thing to think about is like as a consumer ourselves, right? If we were to have a poor, bad delivery experience, we typically don't blame the logistics company or the couriers that actually deliver the parcel. We blame the e-commerce store or wherever it is that we bought that item from.
True.
And so that is the mind shift that we're sort of starting to see, is that the retailer is starting to understand that the delivery experience is still part of that retail experience for the consumer, and it doesn't stop the moment the customer hits the checkout button. It's like, oh, okay, it's now the delivery company's sort of task now to get the delivery to the consumer. So what we're trying to help sort of retailers is we're trying to bring a lot of data that they actually have, and also the data that they get back from these delivery companies, to try to help that delivery experience or improve that delivery experience for the consumer. So all of the learnings that you can get from making a delivery to a consumer, use that to sort of make that next delivery to that consumer a lot better and keep improving on that. Because as a consumer, you'd always go, well, if you deliver to me once, you should be able to deliver to me the next time and the next time, and after that. There should never be a reason for a missed or a failed delivery if you've successfully delivered once.
Yeah, true. So another theme that we've kind of like heard a lot about is sustainability. So like what do you guys think about like sustainability, and there has been a lot of discussion about that, like trying to cut down waste. In an earlier episode, we're talking about the item that was shipped most across Australia is actually air, because of how much empty space that the trucks were. I'm like, that was something that stuck with me, and so what do you guys think about like what are some gaps in the sustainability space or in this space that we can improve in terms for sustainability? Chloe.
Yeah, I think when I think of sustainability, I think about it from things like fuel emissions and how do we cut back on that. So there's quite a strong tie-in between like the accuracy of location data and reducing your carbon footprint, because if you're delivering to the right location, then you're not wasting any fuel. So I think for me, one of the things that I'd really be thinking about if I was a retailer doing my own fulfillment or a logistics operator is think about the location data that you have and think about, is it giving you like the most optimal results? So if you think about things like where your apartment might be, for example, the parking location is probably going to be quite a different location to the building entrance.
Yep.
And you don't want delivery drivers turning up, having to drive around looking for things like parking spots. And so I think that's an area where people can really look at improving their sustainability, is focusing on that side of things. I guess that's where we want people to think about, like, what data could they be leveraging to improve that? Because most people have got devices in vehicles that are capturing this sort of data. But the thing that we've really identified is that it's really underutilized, and quite often that's because of sort of silos within the business where the data probably sits within like an IT team, for example, but it's the operational team that kind of bear the burden and the headache of these types of things. But the two teams don't really come together to talk about these challenges. And so that's kind of what we're hoping that people will take away from speaking to us about this.
All right. So, like, what maybe like around the roundabout way to kind of get there is, it feels like a lot of topics we are trying to do is to solve uncertainty. It is, logistics is supposed to be from it's just point A to point B, and how many ways you can remove uncertainty from that. So maybe Prash, how can retail leaders kind of manage that in their processes, in the way that they do things? How can they manage uncertainty?
Yeah, so the way we think about it is sort of a concept that we call sort of delivery repeatability. So it sort of ties into the concept where if you've delivered once, you should be able to deliver to that same location with a higher chance of success and more efficiently subsequently. So the way retailers could do that is, for example, if a customer's bought an item, they've gotten it delivered. There's a lot of data points that the retailer gets, but also whoever it is that is actually performing the delivery can actually pass back to that retailer. And we're trying to sort of empower these retailers to start taking ownership of this data. So a lot of retailers nowadays have contracts with multiple logistics providers at the same time because of different logistical reasons, cost, whatever the case may be. But they don't actually feed all of this information equally to all of their logistics partners. So what we're trying to do is go look at the retailers, try and get ownership of this data. So if carrier A, for example, is delivered to the customer before, whatever data points that the carrier A is able to feed back to the retailer, take that and then pass it on to also carrier B, who is now having to do the next delivery to that same consumer. Because as I mentioned earlier, the consumer doesn't care who delivers it.
Yeah, it comes or
exactly.
it doesn't.
It comes or it doesn't, right? So that is sort of the concept that we're trying to empower the retailers with, and sort of that is sort of how our platform sort of works in that sort of concept, is to get ownership of that data, understand that data, and then be able to share that data with those that actually need it.
All right, and of course, data is kind of like the new gold, right? Like how maybe I don't understand that enough, but you're basically saying that if courier A is able to do that, do feedback, and then a separate company can also use that data. Is that not any issues with, I don't know, different silos, different privacy and all that?
Yeah, I mean, that is sort of some of the stumbling blocks that you have to sort of get around. Is the data silos is a big thing. As Chloe mentioned earlier, let's take like the courier drivers. They've got so much knowledge, but it's just with that one courier that's delivered to that location. Another courier driver comes in. They have no idea where the other courier parked, where that building entrance was, or where the actual delivery drop-off point is within a building. So it's being able to capture that in an automated way, in a standardized way, and so that it can be shared across the organization as well. So that is sort of trying to eliminate those data silos. The other concept, like from a legal standpoint, at the end of the day, that data is still collected by, a logistics company or a retailer, and so they do actually own that data, so they are allowed to use that. For example, if a company has come to you, they delivered, they've figured out where the best place to park is, or where the entrance is, and where your drop-off point is. But also, like if you're a business, what time of the day are you open? And when are you most likely to be there to sign for a delivery? So all of these are like examples of data points that you can actually start to collect, analyze, and then take this into account from a planning perspective as well, to sort of guarantee you that first-time delivery success.
What would be, let's say, one takeaway that you think that you did kind of like get during the time that you've spent here at the Retail Fulfillment Summit? As in, there were 80 speakers and plenty of content that went around. So maybe each one of you, or maybe something that you took away. You could say whatever. If your takeaway was there was a lot of food and I felt very full. I keep getting fed. That's a takeaway too. So maybe Chloe.
What I actually really liked seeing was like the collaboration amongst people. So it kind of really felt like a community to me. It was the retailers sharing their experiences, and they might be in a competitive space with each other, but there was still that kind of shared thoughts around like, how can we kind of make this better? How can we make the experience better for the consumer? And I also kind of saw that with the exhibitors as well, like everybody talking to each other, everybody kind of sharing knowledge. And so for me, it was the takeaway was like, it's still a really like collaborative space, and people want to work together to improve the outcomes for their customers at the end of the day.
Yeah, so you see, this is the largest retail fulfillment event in Australia, so not one to be missed. So if you ain't here, you guys are missing out. Right, Prash.
Yeah, so for me personally, I think it was, I guess with the current sort of economic landscape, there's been a big focus on cost cutting and driving value to the consumer. It's what can you do with what you have that sort of gives the consumer, the most amount of value. So that sort of resonated with me because that then shows the importance of that customer experience.
Yep.
That every time they interact with you, it's important to get it right, so that you're not actually wasting your costs on a subpar experience. So that was something that was big for me, and I saw a lot of the sessions I attended. That was sort of a big focus, is getting every interaction with the customer or consumer right, and that delivery experience is part of that overall consumer experience.
Yeah. I forgot to address the elephant in the room, AI. As in, Google has their own AI. Everybody has AI, DeepSeek, and all that. So how does that kind of play in? So being very obvious that there are a lot of things people do that's not AI, and just saying, slapping a sticker on it, that's the buzzword. And in this podcast, I've had a chance to speak to quite a number of people. So I want to get your viewpoints, and like each one of you. What do you guys think about the use of quote unquote AI in the retail fulfillment space?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a place for it. So when we think about automation, I kind of see it more as like automating those tasks that don't require that kind of human-centric approach. I think where it should be leveraged is in a way to free up people's time to actually do the human-focused interaction. So when I think about it from like an operational standpoint, let's let AI do those kind of tasks, but let's let those operational people do that human interaction, problem solve, do all that kind of stuff, and speak to people. That's kind of where I see it playing a part.
Yeah. Prash?
Yeah, likewise. I'm not a fan of AI sort of just being thrown in there as a buzzword.
They're listening to you. AI is gonna know. Oh, you don't like me now.
No, but I definitely am a proponent of it. I think it has its place if used correctly and used appropriately. As Chloe mentioned, it does serve a purpose, especially from like an analysis, from sort of doing the trivial sort of repetitive tasks where you can free up those resources to do more high value engagements. Let's say a customer support team, chasing up an order, for example, like that is something that AI could handle, so that the customer support team can maybe use that consumer interaction to maybe upsell another product or do some marketing in there. That is something that's more value add than a support team looking up some records to go, oh yeah, your order is in transit and it's going to be delivered tomorrow. Like that is something that AI and technology can power, but the human element is having that interaction and building that loyalty with the consumer.
For sure. I think you're not the only one who has that viewpoint, and a couple of guests on the channel have actually said, that's you cannot do without the human element, but you remove all the I think it was Tiago for Canap who said that there is a human element in tasks that has that analysis, that like thought process needed, but everything else, make a machine do it. They can do it better, cheaper, faster, and that eventually all adds up and helps with the bottom line. Can I get to the personal section? So time to get uncomfortable. I'm going to ask some personal questions. And this is where we want to be. Like, we want to get leaders in the field and want to get them to know them a little bit better. So one thing each. I guess, Chloe, you're up first. So what is Chloe like outside of work? You did mention a little bit, but explain. I want to hear more. What are some things you do for fun that are, as discussed earlier?
Well, I'm a big foodie, actually.
Yeah. And you count how many rice there is? Is that what happens?
No, the underutilization of rice. No, I guess similar to kind of what Prash said about where kind of OniGroup's taken him. Again, like I've also been very lucky that it's enabled me to travel. And as a team, we'll get along really well. And what kind of bonds us is our love of food. So I was really lucky to attend a Google Maps Partner Summit in Japan in November last year.
Okay.
Obviously, the food was amazing. So for me, it's about the ability to travel, try new things. And then actually, I like trying to cook it at home. So I like going somewhere and then trying to replicate that food as well. So,
any success?
Yeah, I think so. I'm kind of known for my baking skills around the office. So people tend to be a big fan of my cookies that I bring in.
Okay, all right. So, all right, then, Prash, how about you? What do you like outside? What do you do to unwind or basically?
Yeah, similar to Chloe. I mean, I can definitely attest to the cookies. I've had one too many of those. But yeah, similar to Chloe, like a big foodie. I think like one of the things we do when we travel is like start favoriting all of the restaurants that we want to visit in that city. And we're like, all right, we're going there for dinner.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, outside of food, sort of, I guess I'm a sort of a big sports fan as well. So I spend a lot of time playing and watching sport. And sort of basketball and football as well. So that sort of takes up a lot of my time.
Okay.
Also a bit of a gamer, so yeah, that there goes that as well.
I have to ask. So what teams are you supporting? Just to split the room. You just got to know. You brought it up, so yeah.
So okay, this is a bit depressing right now, but I'm a Manchester United supporter right now. Look, I know
Sadness. High five right here. Sadness. Yeah, embodied. Yes, but yes. Okay. Yeah, you found a brother in sorrow. I feel you.
Yeah, so it's just that, and also I'm a Lakers supporter. They're doing a lot better now, but
Luca's there, shooting threes and sinking it from downtown. All right, I've been watching that too.
Yeah. But hopefully, I don't have to watch championship football next season. So fingers crossed. For that.
Okay, we might be playing Champions League. We're gonna win the Europa. All right, sorry, we got a football moment there. Sorry, we gotta combine in our sorrow and sadness. All right, so what I want to kind of give you guys also want to ask a question. What would be a book that you've recently read or you've ever read that you feel like the audience should personally what was a book that had real big impact?
I don't know if people would enjoy what I read because I actually have a degree in history, so I read quite a lot of historical books. So
please share what was a book that you really enjoyed.
I actually am a big fan of he's an author called Ken Follett, and he does like fictitious works, but they're based in like historical periods, and they're kind of center around like big kind of events in history. So one example being like the gunpowder plot in the UK when they tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament. He's got a whole book that's kind of built around that time with fictitious characters and historical characters.
The entire plot of V for Vendetta?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
okay.
Similar to that. But yeah, he has a whole series of books set in all different time periods aligned to like historical events. So if you're also a bit of a history nerd, then I would encourage you to read those books. I absolutely love them.
All right.
Yeah, so I read a lot of biographies. So the current one I'm reading is the Steve Jobs biography.
Yeah.
I guess the most interesting part about that is how invested he was in the human experience of technology, that mattered more than anything else. It didn't matter how good the technology was or how bad the technology was, but it's about the human element of it and how humans would interact with his technology. And that's how much that's what he sort of focused on the most, and like how sort of combining art and technology sort of helped achieve that. And that is sort of the thing that to kind of take away as well. It's technology is great, but it's not if there's no human element to it. So that sort of really resonated with me.
All right. Okay. So last question. And it's I need you to say the first thing that come to your mind. Chloe, what was the last thing you bought online? Why is it doing that?
It's toilet paper.
Oh, you're living in Brisbane. You need to stock up.
No. I live in Sydney, but we're laughing because one of the exhibitors here is the company that's delivering my toilet paper. That's why we're laughing.
Okay, hey, but all right. I had to ask, and yes, there is a need for toilet paper. Prash, what did you buy? What was the last thing you bought?
So the last thing I bought kind of shows you how much of a tech geek I am. Was actually sim racing pedals.
Oh, so serious. All right.
So that was just impromptu Temu purchase. So yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right. Well, Retail Fulfilment Summit, we need to talk about what you buy and what it says, and hopefully you got to learn about what experience or how the delivery for the customer, and then you can tell them, hey, you need to get OniGroup to come in and help you guys get that done right. So thank you guys for taking the time, for having a chat. I hope you enjoyed it, and we have Chloe and Prash from OniGroup here, and thank you guys for coming on the podcast.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Peter, for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.